to go forward. All right. Yes. There we go. There we go. Hey, Bill, I see you there. All righty. Let me just check the sound.
Talk about motivation.
Good.
Mindset.
We're in. Perfect. All right. So we go, just in case you're seeing this for the first time, my name is Ted McDonald, and I am an endurance athlete and a yoga teacher and the creator of Conscious Endurance, which is an idea, started as an idea, becoming a movement of people who want to live an active, healthy 100+ years. And I say active because that's really the crux of the whole plan. There's a lot of people out there who are saying, hey, this is what you need to do to live to 100. You got to eat right, you got to do all that stuff. And we plan on doing that for sure. However, for me, I don't want to just live to 100. I want to thrive and kind of crush mountains at 100 years old. So there was a whole little text that went around with some friends, and we said, oh, hey, we have these goals. We want to do this at 100 years old. And there's people out there who've done it. There's people out there who, like the old French guy, who's dead now, sadly, but he died at like 106 or something like that. And he has the world record of going around a track for the fastest in like 103, 104, 105. I don't know if he did it in 106, but for an hour. So he went 14 kilometers in an hour, or 22 kilometers, 14 miles in an hour on a bike. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to do, that we want to plan for. So how do you do that? Well, I have the plan, friends. I have the plan. So today, what I want to know from you in our topic of courage, commitment, and consistency is, have you ever had any trouble moving forward, right? Last week we talked about overcoming fear, and fear oftentimes holds us back. So have you ever been held back? I would think some point somewhere along the way, maybe so, right? I have. Have we ever been gripped by fear? That was what we talked about last week when I was telling a story about the guy on Half Dome who looked like he couldn't even walk, but then he was just gripped by fear. Or have you ever started a New Year's Eve? Have you ever committed to your New Year's Eve resolution and it fell off? I just found out in researching this particular topic that Strava, for those of you that don't know what Strava is an app that tracks your running, biking, swimming, hiking, skiing, surfing, whatever you want it to track, whatever kind of outdoor activity. You can actually even do indoor activities too. You can track it. On your iPhone, iWatch, Apple Watch would go there, your Garmin, your Whoop, anything where you can push the data to Strava and it tracks. Well, they did a little study with all of their millions and millions of participants, and they looked at 31, let's see if I get these numbers correct, 31.5 million global activities. And what they found was that January 12th was the day that not everybody, but a lot of people lost their New Year's resolution. So you committed, and you made it 12 days, and then you fell off the wagon. And I'm no different, right? I mean, that's, I'm like, okay, this is it. And this is one of the reasons why when I started a long time ago with my my New Year's resolutions, I decided that I wanted New Year's principles. I don't know if that needs to be in quotes or not, but New Year's principles, because a principle was different than a specific action. And I felt like a specific action was short-sighted. I mean, you can set a goal, that's fine, we're going to discuss goals, but a principle you could apply to many different areas of your life. And one of the principles that I've used in the past multiple times for my New Year's resolution is finishing. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, which is finishing, right? So anyway, have you ever started a New Year's resolution and not finished it, right? Apparently, only 8% of people who actually start or set a goal on New Year's actually achieve that goal. That is very sad news, friends, very sad news. But you, on the other hand, are not one of those 92% of the people, right? We're part of that 8%, I hope. So anyway, of course, we've all dropped that stuff, right? We've all dropped it. We've all had our time where we're like, oh, well, it's February, it's March, you know. And so the idea here is to set, not only is to get over that fear, over that gripping fear, but to commit to take these small steps and then to have the consistency to follow through. So that's ultimately, you know, what I did, is came up with this little plan, 3 steps. You have the courage to get over the fear, you have the commitment regardless of what your mind says. And that's so key, because this morning, for instance, perfect example, I slept. Hey, I slept. Those of you that have been with me for a little while know I have 2 children, and one is 4 and one just turned 11 months tomorrow, little guy. He'll be 11 months old, I can't believe it. And he slept. He's been sleeping really well, but the night before, he was up a few times and I didn't really sleep, and I went for my run anyway. This morning, I woke up and he had slept all the way through to 6 o'clock, just past 6 o'clock. So I went for a quick little half-hour trot, and I didn't have to. I thought, oh, well, it's, you know, I ran yesterday, but the thing is, I know that I feel better if I go and get my body moving first thing in the morning. So when possible, and you know, my wife is okay with it, everything needs to go through my wife, then I feel better, and I knew I was going to. So even though I was a little bit tired, I still did it. And that is one of the most important things that you can understand. Regardless of what your mind thinks, you have to push through it anyway. And we discussed this earlier, I think a couple episodes ago, where, you know, the mind is like the elbow. The elbow simply there for us to bend the arm. That's it. That's the purpose of the elbow. The purpose of the elbow, to bend the arm, yes. The purpose of the mind is to think, but not to rule our lives. So that's really, 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 really important in our mindset, in our motivation and mindset. So this is all underneath that little banner, right? So from here, what I wanted to talk about is to get the results that you want. And ultimately, this is where we get into the goal setting of this. So we are the courage, the commitment, and the consistency. So the courage to overcome the fear, to think about what it is that you actually want. And I remember years ago when I started running. So for those of you that don't know, I've been teaching yoga for 20 years now, over about, I guess almost exactly 20 years. And it was the summer of 2000 that I took my first ever teacher training. And now we're in the summer of 2020. I can't believe it. But back then, I also ran my first marathon. That was one of the scariest things, because I gave up running and I gave up going to the gym, and all I did was yoga. Yoga, 3, 4, 5 days a week, and I loved it. It was fantastic. It just made me feel great. And I thought, this is it. I don't need anything else. What do I need? And then I thought, I kind of need a little cardio. Like, I wouldn't mind a little bit of cardio. And then my friend said, hey, come on, let's do a marathon. I thought, no way, man. I'm a yogi now, dude. I don't do marathons. But he said, look, excuse me, we're running 10 miles this weekend. It's a perfect weekend to come in. We run for 3 minutes and walk a minute. Run for 3 minutes and walk a minute, which those of you runners, that's the fartlek technique. You'll run, walk, run, walk, run, walk. And so once I decided to drum up the courage to actually do this marathon, or I didn't even have the courage to do the marathon. I had the courage to show up and do the 10-mile run. And prior to that, I ran twice in the previous almost 3 years, like 2 years and 9 months or something like that. And I thought, wow, all right, this is scary. I could get hurt. This might not go so well, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And that's the thing, ultimately, it's important, that courage that it takes to set yourself apart. And when I say set yourself apart, I don't just mean set yourself apart from others. I mean set yourself apart from that negative, critical box thinking that so many of us have. So many of us have our little lives. We go around our little lives, and we may push on the boundaries a little bit here and a little bit there, right? But the thing is, we don't break through as much as we would like to, as much as we tell ourselves we'd like to, because that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of trust, and it takes a lot of failing. It takes a lot of, whacking your head against the wall, or cutting yourself, or scraping yourself. And it's easier when you're a kid, but it's harder when you're an adult. So just as the example for me, having the courage to take the step to go with my friends and run the 10 miles. That was what I decided to do. After that, I thought, oh my gosh, I survived. I was sore for 4 days, but I survived. And I thought, okay, I'm in. Because I thought, worst case scenario, I'll just do the same thing and replicate it 2.5 more times. So I did 10 miles, I got to do 26.1. I can probably train for this and do it. So cut to 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, I made the commitment. Well, before that, 6 weeks later, I made the commitment. That was it. Signed up for the race. That was my commitment. And that's a huge thing. Just because you have the courage to do something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to follow up with the commitment to do it. And if you follow up with the commitment to do it, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be consistent in your actions, which is the third piece, right? So, first, the courage. What is it in your life that you need to put a little fire under your tush to decide to go do? And I know right now it's crazy times, right? A lot of races are being canceled, but there's no reason why you can't find something in your life that will just push you a little bit more. That is going to be a little bit scary, but that's going to push you and get you to do something that you never thought you'd do before. My life now, from all the places that I've gone around the world and all the races that I've done and all the different trips that I've led and all over, I have a life that I never thought I would have back in the early days. For me, growing up in a small town on Long Island, I was lucky to get out of that town. There's a lot of people that I know that are still back in my town and still sort of doing the same sort of thing, right? It's kind of a little bit of a small town mentality. And thankfully, my parents had National Geographic magazines. Literally, I remember being in my attic, flipping through National Geographic magazines, going, oh my gosh, there's a whole wide world out there. There's people in Africa, and there's people in India, and there's people all over the place. And I've been to a lot of these places now and seen all kinds of different things around the world. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So what is it for you? Obviously now, not many people are traveling. Obviously now, there's not a lot of races happening if it was more of a race thing for you, but something. You can create something for yourself that will be a challenge. So I'm looking right outside of this is my yoga studio here. I'm looking right outside at these big mountains. This Malibu Canyon goes right through that direction. And one of the things that I'm going to do, due to the fact I normally do anywhere from 5 to 10 races a year, from half marathon trail runs to 100-mile races to Ironman to sprint triathlons to mountain bike races, all kinds of different things that I do, and those things keep me in shape, right? I set a goal and I go, oh yeah, this looks like it's gonna be fun, I'll do that. I'll train for it and I'll do it. That's the courage to do it. And I don't have that this year, so I thought, well, I don't want to not do anything that pushes me a little bit more. So I'm gonna come up with something. I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna find a loop and I'll do a loop that would be just like doing a race. Actually, thinking about creating a virtual race, which we can all do together at any place in the world. But anyway, what is that for you? So think about that and then let me know. Leave it in the comments below. What is it for you that you're gonna do? And it doesn't need to be physical, but what is it for you that you feel like you need to muster a little bit of courage for to actually go do? That is gonna be a bit scarier than you might wanna do, right? That's the first thing. And then you gotta write it down, and you write it down and you have this commitment to actually do it. So you cannot, like once you decide that it's going to done, no matter what happens, you can't let go of the commitment that you gave to yourself. So one thing, like these teachings, for instance. So I've committed to doing 12 months of these things every week on a regular basis, and they might not always be live. I might record them and then post them, but for right now, I've committed to doing that. When the shutdown happened, I committed to doing 100 classes, 6 days a week. We've done that. We're at 111, right? And so these kinds of things, you stick to it and you commit to it and you continue to actually do it regardless. I didn't feel great every morning setting up and teaching a yoga class. There were times I was tired. There were times I didn't sleep. There were times I was sore. There were times I just felt like not doing it. But you get up, you show up, you start moving, you drink some water. You got to stay hydrated. And then you show up, right? And it's, so this, I think, leads into a little bit of a bigger deal that I'm not going to get too far into right now. But I saw a friend of mine post something on another friend's social media thing, both of whom will remain nameless. But, this person said, I've been depressed, April, May, June. And I'm going to reach out to this person. I haven't yet, but I'll reach out to them because, I mentioned this in my class earlier today. I understand that. I understand that right now we're in a very specific moment in time, and getting over fear and committing to something that's going to be a big breakthrough might not seem like the most, it's the most opportune time, but what other time than now would be good for you to do something like this, right? So for me, there is no better time than the present to start to think about this sort of stuff, which is why I decided to continue to teach these things, because for me, this is on a regular basis. Okay, what am I doing? Okay, I got this week. What am I going to do this week? I'm going to try to do that. Am I going to push myself, or is it more recovery? And it's a continual analysis. So those of you that know who Brendan Burchard is, so he's kind of a mentor for me, and he has this great little grid that he uses, and it's 10 different topics. So you can feel free to choose your 10 topics in your life. Relationship, exercise, business, spirituality, whatever it is, and then you rate yourself on a weekly basis. You rate yourself 1 to 10, and then you look, what's your final number out of 100? What is it for you? Where can you improve? And there were times I'm a 4 or 3 in certain categories, and there are times that I'm a 9 or a 10 in certain categories. But how can you do that? So that's a great little weekly exercise to do for yourself if you can. But back to the timing of all this, and my friend who's saying he was depressed for a few months, and I go back to the idea of gratitude. And when you wake up in the morning and you take a breath, if the next thing isn't, I'm so grateful that I woke up and I get to live another day, then you got to check your mindset right away at the start of the day. Because then if the next thing is, we're in a pandemic, things are really heavy, I don't know what I'm going to do, and it's going to be a trudge along the way. I understand that. I understand it's going to feel like a trudge, but the only thing we have control over is our mind. Well, not the only thing, but one thing that we have control over is our mindset and changing our perception of a specific circumstance. And how do we do that? You just have to do it. You just make the decision to change. So right now, here's a little idea. You wake up in the morning, take a breath. You're grateful for the fact that you just inhaled, you just brought oxygen into your lungs, and you exhaled CO2. You're alive. And I know that might sound simple, but that's the crux of this whole entire life. If you can find the gratitude in every single day. Now, Listen, none of us are perfect. This is not happening on a regular basis. I don't wake up every day and go, woohoo, I can't wait to take on the day. I mean, oftentimes I wake up and I'm just grateful to have another day. I almost lost my life years and years and years ago. So when I cleaned myself up from drugs and alcohol, for me, I was, right before then, there was a time where I was very clear that I was just going to lose it. I was not going to make it. I was going to die, and that there were people after me. It was a total psychotic state of being. And happy to chat with you more about that experience if you wanted. But it gave me this sense of that every single day is a gift. And that's what I want to get across to you today, that if in this month of mindset and motivation, if you can remember that we're grateful, that we're lucky, that we should be appreciative of the life that we have. And if you don't like the life that you have, maybe because somebody just pulled the rug out from underneath you, then it's important to understand that, okay, that happened, that was an experience, I don't like it, but I need to shift my mindset a little bit and understand maybe there's an opportunity somewhere in there that I could learn from. And that's one of the reasons why these 3 C's are important, because that takes courage. It takes courage to say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm not going to stand for this fear that's coming from my head, and I'm not going to stand for this consistent negativity that's happening on a regular basis. I'm going to move my body if I need to move my body. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to do all the things that I know I need to do to keep my positive mental attitude. And then from there, we can start to get into action. And that's where the plan comes in, the commitment. And then the consistency is the follow through. So courage to move, the courage to change the mindset, the commitment, which is the plan of action to do it, showing up on a regular basis, on a consistent, regular basis, and actually doing it. And then give yourself a few moments to reflect. So what is it that you're committing to? Exercising on a regular basis, stopping eating, eating less sugar, dropping a few pounds, climbing a mountain, calling your parents a bit more, giving a hug. I just saw something somewhere that said, smile to the first 10 people that you see. Something like that. I think I mentioned that actually. But then someone else said 4 hugs a day. You should give 4 hugs a day, and then that will allow you to feel some joy and some happiness. Whatever it is for you, you have to decide and figure it out. But have the courage to do it. Make your plan, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. Commit to it, and don't lose the consistency of actually following through. All right? And let me know what it is for you. I'd love to know. I'm always here. And please feel free to subscribe to this channel below, or share this with your friends. And if you haven't already done so, go over to my website, teddymcdonald.com, sign up for the newsletter, click on the community link, and join our Conscious Endurance community, which is where I'm posting a lot more and giving all kinds of fun tidbits and things to help us live an active, healthy life to 100 and beyond. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you right back here next week for our final talk about mindset and motivation. And then we move to August for the week after, which is going to be all about endurance training. So endurance training, I'll talk about some specifics about how you might think about training for an Ironman, or even a half Ironman. That's an endurance race. Even a mini sprint, half marathon, full marathon, Leadville 100-mile mountain bike ride. There's a couple other different things that I've sort of created in my life that were endurance events, running the Inca Trail and doing a couple things. So that will be the month of August. But I'm always open for suggestions. Get over into the Conscious Endurance platform, and we'll discuss more there. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy,